I'm the Executive Vice President of Santion Group. Santion Group is we're on the East Coast, and we are a process technology company. We develop software. We have an outsourcing, branch in India, another one in Egypt. And we've been developing software and helping others develop software in an agile way. We help a lot of large-scale organizations with agile transformations and how to transform to agile. And that's actually been sort of where I got my doctorate from, actually, at Virginia Tech. I started my studies, graduate studies, doing requirements engineering. And after that, it was so painful. The sort of gap between reality and what they teach you there, that I actually stopped that path. And Agile was just starting at that point in time, and I was fortunate enough to meet some of the thought leaders, Mike Cohn, Ken Schwaber, Alistair Coburn, those guys, and decided to do my PhD in actually how to transform organizations to Agile, because those who are doing it know that it's no easy task. Yeah. It looks like a walk in the park, but it's far from that. So see, these are some of our clients that we're actually assisting with agile transformations. And we talk about agile transformations, we're really focused on some small organizations, but I guess the real challenge is it comes when you try to transform 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 people to agile. That's where it gets interesting. I also sat on the PMI ACP steering committee. Those who know the PMI, the Project Management Institute, I sat on their steering committee defining their new Agile certification, the ACP. I was very fortunate to be one of 6 doing that. Also co-founded the International Consortium for Agile and talk a little bit about that towards the end. And co-authored this book that I think needs updating at some point. It is an iterative process. These are my wife and kids. We actually spent Memorial Day weekend here in San Francisco, so it was pretty cool. And they're out there somewhere driving around till I'm done. So, so we'll see where that goes. Alrighty. So this talk is about the Agile mindset. And so I wanted to start by sort of aligning, because Agile is one of those things everyone is talking about right now. But the more I ask people, what is Agile? You get an array of different answers. And from it is something that has no documentation, it's chaotic, it's a fad, it's a clan, you name it, I've heard it. And a lot of people refer to Agile as a process or methodology. And I sort of wanted to ask you guys, what do you think about that? Yeah.
To me, Agile is I don't exactly know how to define it, but I know the outcome of it.
Yeah.
The outcome of it is that when a team can deliver useful products in a consistent manner, continually, then I would say that team is Agile.
Okay. Others? Yeah.
For me, Agile is like adapt. Like humans are very agile and we adapt, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, like it's like inspect and adapt, transparency.
Okay.
Like if you go for a war, like you plan, then you are an enemy, like you are adapt and shoot. And
Yep.
all that, so you are agile.
Others? Someone was casually asking you, so you do that Agile stuff? Yeah. What is Agile?
Agile Manifesto.
Okay, so you'll refer them to the Agile Manifesto and start from there. Cool.
I might try to describe it to someone who asked a question like that as an iterative process that involves the client, where we try to exceed clients' expectations by continually involving them and getting their feedback on the way that we're developing the product that they're requesting, so that we deliver to their expectations.
And I agree with all of that. And I think it's more than that. And the reason why is iterative development has been in existence since the 1960s. Involving the customer, even the guy that wrote the waterfall, Winston Roy, said involve the customer. Iterative development, I mean, you're talking about half-day iterations, 1964. Test-driven development, 1968. So you're talking about very old technologies. But to your point, most people describe Agile the way we just heard. Yeah.
I want to augment it by just adding.
Sure.
One of the things that fascinates me about Agile, I'm not a developer, but the openness, the collaborative nature of it, and the transparency.
Yeah.
Those elements I find that in a work environment are revolutionary.
That's new.
And that's where I find exciting.
Excellent.
And that's why I studied it, but in a non-programming environment.
So that's going to be interesting because this is actually going to be very non-programming. And the reason why is my belief is Agile is a mindset. That's not just my belief. This is where I'm personally rooted, where our organization, how we teach Agile, how we transform people to Agile. Agile, it's a mindset. It's your mindset around the established attitudes and habit we have about how to succeed at work. Now, you can pause there for a moment and think about it. So it could be the transparency, the iterative, the involving the customer. All those could fall into, those are attitudes and habits we have in order to succeed. But let me take an abstract view of work for a minute. We have some start state, right, we're at. We think of, okay, I want to build this, I want to do this, I want to change my system to do this. And work is how we move from here to there. We create plan, we break down the work, we coordinate and control to get that done, and at the end there's some reward. Makes sense, very simply? All right? This is a very abstract view of the habits towards work. Now, I want to take just 10 seconds, show you a quick video, and then I'll comment on it for a second here. So sorry for the... You guys don't get a lot of that. It would suck, really, to be in his shoes. Have you guys seen this picture? All right, let me walk you guys through my version of it. So based on that video we just saw, it sometimes feels like that. You build it, you polish it, you test it, you package it, you deploy it, show it to the customer. Yeah, but that's not really the car I want. Or that's not the product I want. And sort of this is a representation I think everyone in our industry has seen at some point. This is what the customer explained that they wanted. This is how the project leader understood it. This is how the analyst designed it. No offense to programmers, but yes, we write code that looks like this sometimes. Business consultants have no problem selling anything. So this is what they sold that the customer will get at the end. Documentation looked like this. Operations. This is what the customer was billed for. This is how it was supported, and this is what the customer really needed. So we look at the picture, we get a laugh, but on a real serious note, I need to fire someone. I mean, this turned out that, right? And we built the wrong thing. We scraped the wrong car. We built the wrong software. We've invested a lot of time and resources into this. I need to fire someone. Whose fault? Okay, the entire team I will fire. That's a very sustainable business model for me.
Who are you? Are you when you say?
I'm this guy really out there, CEO, big guy, dude. I just need to fire someone. I'm the guy that fires people.
I'll fire him first.
Fire myself first? I don't do that. I don't believe in that. I have an ego.
Product owner?
Product owner, project manager. So we look at this and we say everyone, no one, the client sometimes, the project leader. But let me tell you the story of this. Because what is this? First of all, what is this? And here's my story of it. Folks, let me introduce you to Bob. Bob knows what a swing is very well. I mean, he grew up playing on swings, and he knows what a swing is. Bob has this new problem that he never thought he would have. He suddenly needs a swing for 3 kids. And the reason is, I mean, he has 3 kids and they want to all swing at the same time. He's tried to tell them, guys, let's do it one at a time. No, 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 we all want to swing at the same time. So he said, okay, well, I know what a swing is, so if I add 2 chairs on top of that, I can get the kids to play together. But Bob has never seen in his life a tire swing, ever. So he doesn't know to ask for a tire swing. Now, is Bob at fault?
Customers rarely know what they really want.
Exactly. Customers rarely know what they really want. Now, we say that, but do we believe it? Do we act upon that? Because if we truly believe, and your name, sir? Sorry.
Keith.
Keith. If we really believe what Keith just said, then I should welcome all the changes my customer has.
In general, yeah.
Yeah. Welcome it, not forced to do it and bite my tongue doing it, right? But really welcome and value and reward the customer in this, his or her discovery process. Mm-hmm. But the reality is most companies don't do that. I wish that was the truth, but most companies don't. And the reason I want to come back to this is because this notion of discovery changes understanding. Once I, as Bob, discover that something is called a tire swing and it will fit 3 kids, wait a minute, developers, I need a tire swing now. But dude, you signed off on a 3-level swing. Yeah, I know, but listen, look in the contract it says, and we start to make up stuff, and I didn't mean that, and that's not what my intent was, and all that kind of stuff. The reality is discovery changes understanding. Now, the interesting part is we're in a constant state of discovery. The client is constantly discovering. Discovering what? Discovering from competition. And not just that, the moment you show the customer something, you've actually just triggered a discovery process for them. That's why every time you show the customer something, they come back and say, oh, great, now I want this. Dude, but I was trying to get done here. The moment you show the customer something, you've triggered a discovery process. And that discovery process changes their understanding of what they want. So that becomes a very interesting cycle. And it has a name, by the way. It's called icky-wissy. Has anyone heard of that term before? Can you guys say that after? Ah, good one, Keith. I'll know it when I see it. And my version of it is that was good enough before, but today, it's not even when I see it, it's when I experience it. Because you could show the customer something. Next week when it's deployed to the customer service reps or these guys or that guys, you start to get changes. Dude, what just happened? I thought this is exactly what you wanted. But it's when they experience it. So, and here's the challenge. And we'll keep discovering more about it as we build it. So it's not just when they use it. It's as we build it, we are discovering more about it. So here's the big change. We all acknowledge this, but something just changed about this model. What just changed? This is in a constant state of flux.
I mean, usually you're dealing with a scope of work, right? It's having to constantly go back, and you said you sat on the PMI. You know how you have to go back and rework your project schedule and account for all these changes and adjust all that.
True.
So how do you do this?
Well, that's what I'm going to get to. So the first thing I want to sort of, change our world's view for a minute and say, this simple model of work is changing. It's changing dramatically today because this thing never stops. It will continue going as long as this slide is on, by the way, right? And that's the reality of work. And it's not just changing because of the customer. It's changing because of the customer, because of the market, and because of the development process. Because as developers, As technical folks, as business folks, we are constantly discovering better ways of doing things too. That changes the end state. So the question is, when do I get my reward?
When you show some value.
Aha, that's the point. Now, how am I going to show value? Am I going to wait till that thing freezes at some point so I can go get it? Because remember,
It's mislabeled, it's not an end.
I agree with you. However, we view it as an end. We call it the end of the project, right? The desired result, the desired outcome. What do we need to build? And our mental model, unfortunately, is, not fortunately, unfortunately, but it is what it is. It's based on the fact of a very linear structure that in order to get the end result, I need that thing to pause so I can go get it, right? But the reality is, it's never going to pause, right? So will your work approach be able to do that or not? That's the agility piece of it. So when do we end? When does work end? If that's the case, there is no end. To your point, there is no end desired result, right? There's no end result.
Right.
But there is an end, actually, and I don't know why this slide looks like that, forgive me. But it actually is when the cost of the change is less than or equal the value of the change. So let me explain that one more time. When the cost of the change is less than or equal to the value of the change, this process stops.
But you also want to minimize cost of changes.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute. Let me explain that, and then we'll get to the minimize, because that's happening whether we like it or not. Technology.
I know, but it changes dramatically. What used to be not cost effective to change,
Now
as
is
a new technology or process can enable or disable that.
100%. So let's take a look here. So a desired end state plus these constant deltas of changes equal this constant new desired end state. When do we stop? The cost of change. So the cost of change could be literally hours, days, could be miss a deadline, get a new market opportunity, miss a market opportunity, work the developers' weekends, whatever the cost is, there's a cost. So if those people making decisions see that the cost of the change is less than the value of the change, then I want the value, then pay the cost. All right? Now, this cost of change is changing. It is constantly now, due to technology, getting lower and lower and lower. Look at our smartphones, right? Ford right now, the new cars, the displays are LCDs. Why? Lower the cost of change. The amount of software in everything right now, everything, machines, cars, planes, everything, the amount of software, because guess what? The value proposition of software is actually to allow learning and discovery with a lower cost of change. That's why we had hardware before that. I mean, if you guys even remember the hardware, we had dip switches on the outside. Why? So that we can change quicker, right? Even as we build software, we have configuration files, we have XML. Why do we have all this? It's all about lowering the cost of change. And with the advancement of technology today, fortunate or unfortunate for us, it's irrelevant because that is in a constant going down. Which means change is going to come more and more and more our way. It's not stopping, it's not slowing down, it's only increasing. Yeah.
So I get what you're saying about the cost of change decreasing. I'm not getting the slide, because if the cost of my change is less than the value I receive, doesn't that mean it's like a net positive?
Yeah, that's why you'll keep changing.
You'll keep changing.
Yeah.
Does it stop when the cost becomes greater than the value?
Of course.
Okay.
So till when do we keep accepting changes? We'll keep accepting the changes as long as the cost is lower than the value. Once the cost is higher, no, dude, stop, don't do it. If you buy a new house and you don't like where the bathroom is, you'll think about it. What's the cost of changing where the bathroom is? $50,000? Ah, screw it, dude, I'll just orient myself this way, right? It doesn't make a difference to me. But if the cost of change was $10, yeah, do it. No problem, right? That's how we work. But in our world, the way the business views this, all right, the cost of change in knowledge work is actually pretty low. All right, at least that's the viewpoint, because the market opportunities most of the time is higher. So go do it. We're not talking about a physical world that, first of all, people can imagine and say, okay, we're breaking down the wall, we need to do this. Just go in and do what you guys do and do it. Well, that needs more time. Yeah. Just work a weekend or something. Right? So the second piece of this is about managing the work. All right? So we talked about that piece called the end state, and now we're aware that this end state keeps changing. Also, the way we run work or the way we manage work. There's a spectrum called a defined process control or empirical process control. In a defined process, given the same inputs, you get the same outputs every time. Okay, so sort of like an assembly line, right? In an empirical process, given the same inputs, you may or may not get the same outputs. You don't know. So let's take a simple example here, driving from home to work. Defined or empirical? Others?
If you're in 1 hour, it's empirical.
So if I leave from the same house every morning, I hope, and I go to the same workplace every day.
It's mostly predictable.
Mostly defined, provided everybody else cooperates.
Well, it depends on traffic conditions,
Okay, if you
accidents,
go in
all
1
that.
hour-
Excellent. So how do we think about this? We think about it, here's a simple way to think about it. Look at the events and activities in the process, because it's not about the outcome. It's about the process. It's process control. The events and activities in the process, are they predictable or unpredictable?
They're mostly predictable. You'll stop at a stoplight.
But how long will you stay there? How many cars are in front of you?
Right. So it's predictable provided you buffer it.
It's actually unpredictable, but we've learned.
Right.
That's the difference. It's actually unpredictable. However, what happens with an empirical, so in a defined process, you can rehearse it. An empirical process, you can't rehearse it. Why? Because every time it's different, all right? But you actually learn from it, which means that over the past 10 years I've been driving from home to work, I know it's around 20 minutes. But that actually has no level of confidence that today it will take you 20 minutes. Because today may be the day that you get in an accident, you get a flat, whatever it is. And so all that rehearsal, all those 20 years gave you no predictability. It gave you a range, it gave you learning, but actually could provide no level of confidence. All right? So the point being, and let's go back here for a second, a defined process, there's no discovery, low uncertainty, no creativity, low change rates. Here it's the opposite. In a defined process, it's possible to first complete the specs, freeze it, then go build it. Think of a building, right? I can design it, freeze it, go build it. It's possible to identify, define, and schedule all detailed activities up front. They did this experiment in California, actually, a few years back. The shortest amount of time needed to build a house. Does anyone know?
30 days?
Come on, Extreme Makeover Home Edition does 70.
hours.
Lower. 4 hours.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. Look it up. It's called the 4-hour house. Okay? 4 hours.
Modular walls.
Nope.
Oh,
Nope.
From scratch.
From scratch. Empty plot of land, house. Now, 8 months to plan the 4 hours. Okay? So,
How many guys were working on it?
excellent question. I think it was like, I remember the video. It was like an army of people.
Oh, that needed coordination, didn't it?
Aha. Let's pause right there. You hit the magic word right there. So, what they did was, for 8 months, they wrote down every single thing that needs to be done, from an empty plot of land to a fully functional house. They looked at the bottlenecks, like the cement drying, right? And they found ways around it, chemicals or whatever, okay? But they looked through all that, and then they said, okay, if we want to do it in 4 hours, let's put an army to it. And it was a matter of coordination and control, who will work on what when, all right? And they rehearsed it.
That's good. You couldn't do that just once, could you?
They rehearsed it. Because it's a defined process, you can rehearse it. Now, with an empirical process, it's rarely possible to create upfront, unchanging, detailed specs. You can't rehearse a drive from home to work. You can learn about it.
No, wait. We can easily create it, it just may not work. You go and you say, go to your map program, it gives you a completely defined process. Go from here to here to here.
Sure, but the
may not
driving experience. But you get my point. It's the process. It's when are you going to stop? What are you going to do? All that. And you really, like I said, you really can't rehearse it. You experience it once and you experience it twice. And you can experience it 50 times and have a collective experience. But that doesn't mean that the next experience, you may all your life stop at that one red traffic light. But guess what? After 20 years, it just happened. The time of day, whatever, it was green today. So do you stop because I'm used to stopping? Because the plan says stop? No. So here's the key, though. If you look at software development and knowledge work in general, right, it's on the right-hand side. By knowledge work, does everyone know what I mean by knowledge work? We are knowledge workers. Software development is a form of knowledge work, right? It needs the brain. You use your brain. It's compared to task work, where actually you don't need your brain, you need physical, right? So a construction builder is more of a task worker. Does that make sense? So most of us would be knowledge workers. Teachers, engineers, lawyers, software developers, all these people are actually knowledge workers. Okay? So with knowledge work, the idea is your brain goes through these cycles of iterative, it's not one way, right? So here's a simple example. Have you guys ever written an article before, right? For school, even a long email will do for this example, all right? When you write it and you read it, do you find a better way to write it? Whoa, that's considered rework? Why didn't you guys get it right the first time? Why? Because that's the way knowledge work is. All right? Actually, that's an innovation. You found a better way of doing it. And if I were to leave you unlimited time, you would keep refining it and refining and refining it till, going back to that equation, the cost of change becomes higher than the value of the change. All right? Does that make sense? And those who did composition on paper and pencil before the word processors were in schools and all that, you wrote it, you erased a little bit, but the cost of the change was actually pretty high, right? Because you could have to rewrite, you could have to erase a whole paragraph. So that actually inhibited people to innovate, to find better ways of writing. But with the word processor right now, the cost of change has come down to near zero. It's copy and paste. And it's in a usable state. All right? So keep all that in mind. Now, so if you look at software development and knowledge work, is it more on the right-hand side or the left-hand side?
Right-hand side.
Right-hand side, but how do we try to build it?
Left-hand side.
Okay. And it feels to me like we're fitting a square peg in a round hole. But let me tell you the problem. The real problem about this is that we figured out how to do it.
Yes, yes, pinball.
We figured out how to do it. And it's been working. And when you talk to organizations about it, they say, but we're doing it. Dude, but are you seeing any of this? Any of this? No, but we've been delivering software for 20 years successfully. So to your point about the definition, some people will say, well, we're agile. You're talking about consistent delivery of software? Dude, I'm in. 20 years, 100 years, track record right there. Any questions? But they don't see this. They don't see this, they don't see this, they don't see any of this. So, the real issue here is the management approach. In a defined process, to your words, it's all about coordination and control. An empirical process is all about inspect and adapt. So the reality is, now let's go back to the driving example. How are you managing driving from home to work? Coordination and control? You have no control over other cars, over traffic lights, over any of those. All you have is that inspect and adapt. If the light is green, you go, assuming there's no cars in front of you, right? If it's red, you stop. If it's backed up, you stop, right? It's inspect and adapt. There is no coordination and control. Coordination and control means that you will sit at the breakfast table in the morning, plan it all out, program it, and go. Right? That doesn't work. Now, let me ask you this. The Google car, autonomous vehicles, how do they manage? Inspect and adapt or coordination and control? Inspect and adapt. 6,000 inspect and adapts per second. But autonomous vehicles aren't all inspect and adapt. A monorail at an airport, coordination and control or inspect and adapt? It's a little bit. Remember, it's a spectrum. So nothing is 100% here, by the way. But it's a lot more coordination and control. There's maybe 1 or 2 sensors, right? But why? Why is that coordination and control? Say it?
The environment never changes.
The environment. I put a rail, for God's sake. All right? It's in a closed tube. All I need to see if a kid falls in front of it or someone falls in front of it, that's it. But I have control. Now, working with knowledge workers, do you have control? Even as a developer, do you even have control over yourself? I'm serious.
No, it's continuous discovery.
It's continuous discovery. I may be in a good mood today, and I look at the code and just whoosh, beautiful code is coming out of me. Another day, I've had a horrible commute, right? One of my kids is sick, and I'm looking, staring at the screen. I'm like, I have no freaking clue how to solve this problem. True? Testers. One day, they'll find a bug like this. It's the same bug 2 weeks later, 2 hours. Right? Even writing an email. Some days spelling is just off, right? You can't form a good, cohesive sentence. And some days you're in the zone. But let's control that. Come on. As managers, let's try to control that. Can you? Do we try? Oh, yeah, we do. We tried it. It's not going to work. It's never going to work. It's the human element. And that's the challenge. That's what Agile is bringing back. It's bringing back the human element to work, right? Because we have so dehumanized work. We call them resources. Plug and play. It's the assembly line mentality in action. It's the industrial age era applied to knowledge workers. And it won't work. Because we are not assembly line workers. And because the whole point of knowledge work is that in an assembly line, the worker does not have to provide insight into the process or the work that's being done or anything. Why? Because someone else already did. They sat there, they engineered the thing, they divided the work breakdown structure. See where that comes from? All right? And they said, all you need to do is this piece, this piece, this piece. A conveyor belt will take them, and we're done. But I see that mentality in knowledge workers today, by knowledge workers. Though that language, I hear it from developers all day. Just tell me what I need to do. Why? Are you an assembly line worker? Can't you think with me? So it's both ways. Management treats people like assembly line workers, and they reflect themselves as assembly line workers. So guess what? It's a win-win from both sides at this point.
Well, apart from the fact you never deliver anything that works, but yeah.
You had your hand up, sir.
Yeah, so is this continuum basically equivalent to where the intelligence is located in your system? So on the left, it's very centralized, or can be centralized in time and space. On the right, it has to be decentralized.
I would not look at it from a centralized and decentralized perspective versus as much as the environment and these attributes per se, right? Because with the discovery process, and especially a human discovery process, there's a give and take, there's a back and forth. You cannot automate that. We try to, We've tried to, the software factory and we've tried to do all that, but the reality is you can't. And this is not just about the end state. It's about how people work. It's about managing knowledge workers. And that's, I think, the key difference here. In an assembly line, this works. But in an office setting, try it. All right? You can plan as much as you want, but then your lead developer gets sick. Control that, dude. I'm not kidding. You don't have control over it.
Like we are talking about assembly line, but if you look at it, if you think properly or if you read more, even the assembly line, the Toyota way is also in Agile, right? If you look at the inspect and adapt, like some problem, like
it's a lean. Assembly lines are lean. Lean is a different concept. Lean is removing waste, reducing work in progress. It is better than the mass production view, but it's still an assembly line. Meaning, someone has designed the car and is telling this person, you need to do this.
But you're saying there's no inspect and adapt there?
I'm not saying there's no inspect and adapt, right? Actually, from a process perspective, there's very little inspect and adapt. In Toyota, any factory line worker has the authority to stop the assembly line. I totally understand that from a quality perspective. However, they are not required from a management perspective to, again, it's more of a coordination and control. It's way more on that side. And it's not because of the worker. It's because of the nature of what's being developed. It's task work. This is all task work. The problem is when we start using this knowledge work, we cannot even control our own minds, let alone someone else trying to control it from the outside. But I can control a conveyor belt. I can control how fast you move the screw in. I can give you a better tool. I can do all that. But when it comes to knowledge work, it's a whole different ballgame. And the challenge we've had right now is that this whole model has changed from an industrial age to a knowledge age, and we haven't changed anything else with it. And the reason it has changed, it just came upon us in the past 30 years, 40 years, really. That's it. So compared to centuries of agricultural and industrial work, yeah. I mean, we know that language. We know all that. This is very new to management, to us, to everyone. Now, so again, this is what we're talking about here. So for a lot of us, this is a lot of uncertainty here. So you're telling me I'm starting a project with a very dynamic end state, and I can't even control the resources that are doing this work. Great. What the hell do I do? How am I supposed to succeed here exactly? And so this level of uncertainty is very high. And when you look at the cone, this is called the cone of uncertainty. This is more the scientific aspect of it. They say if you give someone an estimate of 100 days for a project, the reality is it's anywhere between 25 to 400 days. You just don't know. You just don't know. So here's where the Agile mindset comes. It's in this situation. The question, what is our mindset towards managing uncertainty? When we have projects with that amount of uncertainty, what is our established set of attitudes and habits? Do you guys understand what I mean by habits? Muscle memory. We go to it. We don't even think about it. All right? What is it? Overestimate.
You know, the instinct, old school, is to try and reduce that uncertainty.
100%. How?
The plan.
The plan.
Mitigate risk.
Mitigate risk.
Small batches.
Small batches. All those. So the natural human instinct, in Agile or not, is to reduce uncertainty. And that won't change. That's a human instinct. Human. All right? The question is how.
In the Agile, you have much tighter control over the near future than the far future.
Yes.
So
Well, it's deeper than that, folks. It's actually, I'm going to actually go to Stanford University for a minute here and talk to you about mindsets from a psychological perspective?
Carol Dweck?
Of course, sir.
Yes.
Okay, you ready for some Carol Dweck here? Okay, let's go for some Carol Dweck. Carol Dweck, all right? So Carol Dweck is, I would consider, one of the foremost researchers in the world on mindsets, okay? Her book called Mindset, The New Psychology of Success, highly recommend it.
It's brilliant.
Highly recommend it. If you as kids, grandkids are in a relationship at work, if you are a human being, read the damn book, okay? All right, so she says the following. People have one of two mindsets. This is not a continuum, this is not a spectrum, okay? People have one of two mindsets towards things. Let me explain here. So a fixed mindset believes that ability is static and inherent. You cannot change it, all right? The growth mindset believes that ability can grow and you can change it by putting more effort, okay? Let me pause here because this is really important. This is not something you're born with. This is not something in your DNA. This is not something that's universal about everything about you. You can have a fixed mindset about your IQ and a growth mindset about your talent. Which means I believe I can change my talent if I put more effort, but I believe I can't change my IQ even if I put all the effort in the world. I can believe that my relationship is either good or bad, right? Doesn't matter how much effort I put, there's no chemistry. Okay, yeah?
So the same person can have both fixed mindset and growth mindset?
About different topics, different areas, okay? So if I have a belief that, you know what, I have a really bad voice, I can't sing. Dude, go to singing practice. Dude, no, there's no way it will improve. Therefore, I have a fixed mindset about my ability to sing. It doesn't matter how much effort I put in it. Now, I'm using it in the negative. It's also a different point of view. I'm a good singer. And I believe it was a natural gift that was given to me. I don't need to put any effort into it. I'm a natural athlete. Now, the challenge with that is it leads to an inert desire to look good and smart. Because remember, you want to succeed. People in both mindsets succeed.
But the fixed mindset will try to hide this.
Well, let's take a look, dude. You just set me up right there. All right? I was waiting for someone to. All right. So here's how they do it. A fixed mindset will avoid the challenges. Why?
Because it can't risk failure.
Any failure for them shakes them at their core because they're going to look bad. Remember, I believe I have what it takes to succeed. I'm not a bum here. I believe that I am the natural born athlete, right? At baseball, not at basketball. That's it. So I have a belief that I won't put any effort except, and that's really number two here, I'm going to stick to what I know and I know how to do. Why? Because I know I can do it. It's that simple. Make sense? Now, if I get any feedback, do I really accept it? No, because it affects my personal self-image. Therefore, if I avoid challenges, fear failure, stick to what I know, achieve less than my full potential, don't accept feedback, I really don't change much. And that reinforces the belief inside of me that I can't change. That's the fixed mindset.
I would describe us on that side, people believe their job descriptions.
Excellent. Now, I like that. On the growth mindset, they embrace challenges because, remember, these guys are different. They believe everything can grow, they can develop anything, or that topic, whatever that is, right? So it leads to an inert desire to put effort and to learn. So now, on this side, they embrace challenges because they will learn something new. It doesn't matter. And this is the key for me. They're not afraid to put a lot of effort into something. Why? Great. That's how they grow. Therefore, they don't just accept feedback, they actually seek feedback. Why? Because it's a learning opportunity for them. right? So it's not about them, it's about their current capability. And in their core, they believe that they can change their current capability, and therefore they view feedback as a source of information. Now, this is all good and dandy, but what does it have to do with work? So, here's my take on Agile. You guys ready for this? This is the Okay. All right. So just like we say, fixed mindset and growth mindset about talent, about relationships, this is about work. The growth mindset in the context of knowledge work is what I call the Agile mindset. That's what Agile is. Let me explain. I'm a team of fixed mindset or Agile mindset, or an individual, doesn't make a difference to me. I want to succeed. How am I going to succeed? Here, this group. They aim to look good by delivering planned results. So I'm going to start a project here. I am all hyped up. I'm so fixed mindset. I want to succeed. All right? So my biggest risk, Keith, right? My biggest risk is my customer, Keith, changing his mind. So I'm going to plan this all out. Okay? So Keith, dude, all right. What do you want? Because every time you change your mind, you're putting me at risk of failure. True? True. Do I want to fail? No. Oh, no. I need to look good. I need to look smart. Because I've done this before. I've delivered projects. But I've delivered projects when I was able to freeze the outcome.
That's why you have a high change cost in the contract.
Aha!
Every change doubles the contract.
So
price.
look
Is
at
that
this. Look at this. Assumes that the customer knows exactly what they want, therefore tries to fix the requirements. Now, that assumption could be true or make belief in their head. Meaning, I can truly assume, because I've dealt with managers, they actually believe that the customer knows what they want. I've learned requirements engineering for 2.5 years, and they tell you it's all about the elicitation process.
Yeah, they give you a nice crystal ball right at the end.
Yeah, you become an oracle. Yes, sir.
Because culturally, aren't we socialized to believe that the customer is right?
Yes. We are socially, not just socially, I'm going to take this back to the industrial age again, because here's the key. This is actually the key for me. These fixed mindset and growth mindset you're not born with. It's how you're raised. So when I read this book, I freaked out because my 4-year-old son was so fixed mindset. He used to tell me, Daddy, I'm super. All right? And I used to say things like, you're such a good boy. All right? Or, you're so smart. I mean, we say this to our kids every day, and it's motivation. And that is so fixed mindset. You are smart. Therefore, in life, when you fail, smart people don't fail. What am I? Right? So, now, take this back to work for a minute. So it's about the language that we use with our kids that will develop here or here. It's about the language we use at work that has developed us into fixed mindset or growth mindset at work. And all the language we know and have, which is no one's fault, is industrial and agricultural age language. We ask questions like, when are you going to be done? That is not a knowledge work question, by the way. And we ask it till today. I give something to a developer and I ask, when are you going to be done? In knowledge work, there is no done. So how can you ask someone, when are they going to be done?
What would be the appropriate question?
You have a deadline. What can I get by Tuesday? I'm now thinking scope, not time. That's the whole point of Agile. The scope is unlimited. It will never end, guys. If I give him 2 weeks, he'll keep working. If I give him 3 weeks, he'll keep working. If I give him 2 months, he'll keep working. All he's going to do is, instead of a function, create a whole framework for me. True or false? I'm a developer. I know this stuff. Right? If I give an author 2 months to write something, he'll write it. If I give him 2 years, he will write it better. Don't get me wrong. He will write it better. But the question is not about good or better. I have a constraint. I need it good enough.
Yes, diminishing returns.
Yes, that's the whole point. So I don't use questions at work like, when am I going to get this? Because what are you going to think? He's going to go back to empirical mind. Okay, so in my experience, it's going to be 2 weeks. Let me buffer that to 3 weeks. Dude, it's 3 weeks. Now, something happens to him. He's not in that state of mind. 3 weeks later, he's not done. All right? We go into a whole, yelling match here. Next time I ask him, he's going to say,
5 weeks.
excellent. And by the way, will he ever finish it in 4?
Nope.
You got it. We have such inflated estimates in our industry today. It is absolutely ridiculous. That's why I don't ask for estimates anymore.
So how do you improve that or counter it?
I have a deadline. So most projects have it. Who are we kidding here? Because the point is, I'm going to ask him and ask him and ask him and then try to fit it in my deadline and go back and negotiate. So I'm just flipping the whole equation. I'm saying, I need something by Tuesday. What can I get? This, and I'm going to negotiate scope, not time. That's knowledge work. Because what is negotiable in an article is I can write it to be like literature, all right? Or I can just get you a draft.
Good enough.
Yeah, that's the language. Language like, when are we going to, just tell me what I need to do. That's an assembly line language. That's, I want to look good and smart. And you keep changing your mind, so just tell me what I need to do.
Can I throw something?
Yeah. This is
so great. This is actually the blog post I'm writing right now. Now, what I'd add,
connect.
very
Okay.
much.
Yeah.
What I'd add is that the fixed mindset comes out of a decision at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution to create an education system designed to supply the Industrial Revolution with people that it needed.
Did you watch the TED Talk?
Yeah. Basically, there are 2 layers. There's one layer that goes, we need you lot to be obedient. Be unskilled and obedient. You do as you're told, and you can go and be soldiers or you can work in factories. And we get another layer of highly invested professionals.
You got it.
We manage those guys, but they are invested in themselves with a capital S as their job description.
What is capital S?
What
In themselves.
Yeah. What you see over on that left side is qualification. This may hurt, but one of the things that I would love to see change is for people to stop being software engineers and go back to being software developers. An engineer is a
Software.
qualification.
Yeah.
A developer is someone who's always developing. And I think there is immense danger, don't you?
100%. I hate the term software engineer.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Yeah.
Now-
So I'm sorry. I didn't
No.
mean to-
This is great.
That we're educated to think this way is the point I'm trying to make.
And I want to build on the software piece because fixed mindset managers and that development ecosystem assumes that developers know how to build stuff. And that learning is punished. If you figure out, how many times as a developer have you woke up the next day, looked at your code and said, oh my God, there's a better way to do this. And I've been there when I went to my boss and they said, why didn't you think of that yesterday? I was like, because it's being recorded, I don't want to say something. But I'm like, seriously? So that's the price you get for innovating. And yet people preach it. We need innovators.
Right.
Yeah, but that's called rework. No, it's not. It's an iteration of thought. We are very linear in our thought process. We are very linear. So, and then they assume and hope that nothing will change along the way. That goes deeper because to do that, they know that stuff will happen, so they buffer. But why do they buffer? Because they hope that after this buffer, nothing will change. Do you see the mindset in action? Now, guys, it doesn't matter what practices we're talking about right now in Agile. Because, hopefully we'll get some time. I'll show you how to use iterations with a fixed mindset. Let me give you an example here. Sorry, this topic hypes me up. Okay, I'm very passionate about this because it pisses me off, honestly. It really upsets me how this transformation of minds has been boiled down to a process. Said, daily stand-up, put stuff on a wall on a sticky, and 2-week iterations? No, 3-week. Let's debate that for 2 months. That's prototypes. Prototypes. It's all about discovery and learning. No. It's a discovery tool used with a fixed mindset. Think of that. prototypes are a discovery tool used with a fixed mindset. Why do I keep going back and forth trying to find out what you want so I can fix it, freeze it, and go build it?
I don't buy that.
No, I get it. I get it.
If it's a working prototype, I don't call it a prototype. That's called software. I don't know why people call that
No, but you
prototype.
can use very low fidelity prototypes to get a better idea.
True. But it's still fixed mindset.
But
It's a
the
discovery
aim
tool.
is
I'm not denying it's a discovery tool.
The end goal is to freeze the requirement.
Not to
Basically,
freeze.
let me give you a prototype. Now you look at this prototype. Now you tell me exactly what you want.
No,
so I
you're
can
not
freeze
getting
my-
exact.
So
'Cause
if
you can't, but you can, a prototype gives a better experience than a document. And like you said, it's about the experience.
I have a slide. I have a slide for this. But what I'm getting at is, actually, let me just go to the slide. Why am I? It's one slide away. Let's do it. So, we're not stupid. We know we need to discover. But the question is, what do we give to discover? We give documents to discover, but what is the quality of discovery that we get? Very low. We give screen designs, wireframes, prototypes, all that. These are all, from my point of view, from my personal point of view, most of these are used with a fixed mindset. They're all discovery tools used with a fixed mindset. And guess what? You actually almost have no option except to fall back to a fixed mindset unless you cross this blue line. And let me explain why. All right? So this is the whole point of my talk. If you do not cross this blue line, everything under this blue line, documents, it's no value. Right? By value, I mean actual return on investment. I cannot deploy a document or a screen design or a wireframe or any of these, which means the discovery process will keep going back and forth, till someone says, stop the discovery process, go build that thing. Therefore, I fall back to the fixed mindset. I'm fixing, I'm freezing. The slide that I jumped was just a summary. The fixed mindset reduces uncertainty by fixing, by freezing, by nailing things down. That's how they approach uncertainty. The growth agile mindset reduces uncertainty by learning and discovery value add efficiently. That's the biggest difference. Both have to reduce uncertainty. That's human nature. You can't change that.
And you don't think prototypes are an efficient way to learn?
No, let me tell you why. They're not the most efficient way to learn because of this. Let me provide my point. If you have a prototype, and by prototype I mean a non-working prototype, because okay, great,
I'm talking about like paper and pencil prototypes.
great. They provide learning. They're here, right? They provide discovery. However, it didn't cross the threshold for me, where that aspect of learning is efficient enough that you don't fall back to the fixed mindset. And you can go back and forth in paper prototypes till someone says, enough, go build it. I go build it and show it to them, and there's still feedback. And there's still feedback. So the point becomes here, if there continues this back and forth of feedback without value, at some point I have to say, guys, I can't spend enough money anymore. Go do something, build something out of this. So what I'm saying is that the revolutionary part of Agile is this, that working software is the means of discovery and learning. Let me pause. Working software is the means of discovery and learning. Not paper prototypes, not documents, not any of these. Two benefits you get. Number one, if I were to show, your name? Cheng? If I were to show Cheng a prototype, and try this at home, actually don't. If I were to show him a prototype and say, this is a prototype, I'd like to get your feedback, he'll give me a list of 10 points. If I were to turn around and say, sorry, actually, I was lying. This is actually the real product we're going to go to market with. Are those 10 points still valid? Do you think he'll have more than 10 points?
He'll have less points, because you know it's already done.
No. I almost can guarantee you. I will guarantee you he'll have 20 more points. all right? The reason why is, oh, okay, so this is going to market? Well, let me now take a really good look at it. Now, those 10 extra points, will they cost me later to do it? Because I didn't know he had these 10 extra points, right? Now, scenario number 2. I show working software to my client. He doesn't like it. Is there anything that I could have delivered that would have provided me more learning?
He might still only give you 10 points because he hasn't got the whole software.
True. If 10 points is all he has, that's all he has.
What I'm saying is the time that it takes you to get that working software is a cost.
Yes.
And so really the difference between the prototype and the working software, and I completely agree with you, you can iterate, is cost to get that input.
True. However, if we learn how to slice the software in very thin slices of working software,
Yeah.
and now I show him a piece, one of two things will happen. Likes it, deploy. Doesn't like it, maximum learning. Now, here's the challenge. We keep going in this cycle till when? Just deploy. Do I ever need to freeze anything or fix anything? That's what allows me to maintain my agile mindset.
And you're also to market faster because you've
100%.
actually built something. that
Let me show you a picture here.
you can improve.
I'm going to, just for a sec, take a look at these 2 pictures. Number 1, if my intent, my core intent inside of me is learning and discovery, top row or bottom row? Bottom. Why?
Because each one's finished.
Because this first picture provides my customer with the maximum amount of learning and discovery. Question 2. Everyone think for a moment here. Look at the top row only. Top row only. When, if you're the product manager, when will you deploy? Step 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5? Just put those number of fingers up in the air. Okay. Bottom row, you are product manager. When will you deploy? Hands up in the air. I want to see. 2, 1, 3. It depends. Beautiful. My point exactly. It depends. It depends market opportunity. It depends whatever. Now, here's the mindset piece. This first one, I built working software. It all went to waste. They threw it out. Here's the mindset piece. And this is not us only, this is the whole company. Do we value this as learning or do we see it as a failure?
It should be learning. I mean, it's a foundation.
I wish. Unfortunately, typical management today will view that as a failure. And until we can change that, do I get a round of applause or something? Okay, all right. Right. Well, I'll tell you about that.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. It's coming. Now, but sorry. So the point here is, if we, and that's your point earlier, if we can view this as a company, as a culture, that this was a huge success, that it provided us with the maximum amount of learning, which then enabled us in the second iteration to build something that the customer actually wants, then we have started to adopt the agile mindset of learning and discovery. We do not care about looking bad. Do you guys remember? It's at the core. I have been with so many teams. Hell is breaking loose inside and they're reporting green. Why? I cannot look bad. Even with our customers, we fear that this will look bad with our customers. It's the customer that was driving it. What are you fearing? No, we have to make sure that we're going to develop the right thing. Well, enjoy the documentation process, the prototype process, and still, whatever you develop, you're still going to get feedback on. But here, I am enabling the business, the customer. I am truly enabling agility. Because now I can respond to market needs however I need to. I don't know how Apple builds stuff. I actually don't, and it's a big black box. However, something about that process is agile, and I'll tell you my evidence. The iPad. It was launched when it had the hole for the camera inside. It was there, but it launched without a camera. There was some iterative process that was involved there. And someone said, deploy now. They said, we're still iterating. Market opportunity. I need to go down now because I know that I'll grasp market share. And that's what they did.
Yeah, Apple, they do Agile. Like that.
No. I'm talking about a whole different level of Agile here. We're talking about manufacturing. I don't know what the heck they do, but salute. Honestly. The fact that a piece of hardware had the next iteration of whatever they're going to deploy, yet they were able to deploy that quickly, something there works.
Should they have plugged it up then?
If that took one extra, I wish so. But here was the market decision. Someone could have said, boss, just give me an extra week and I'll put it in. He said, I can't afford a week. Dude, just give me one more iteration. I need to deploy here. And remember, iPad 2 is coming, don't worry. There's no end. iPad 2 will come, but I need to go down now. Here, I don't have an option. I have a fully functional camera, but no keyboard working, or the software isn't complete, or whatever. They must have been building it in iteration somehow. You get my point, though. Right? And if you don't do this, the other view I've seen is chunks. This Agile piece looks great. Oh my God, this Agile piece looks beautiful. This, they all look great. I'm giving you feedback, and then you put it all together, and what the heck is this? Because there's no end-to-end view of what we're building. It's bits and pieces. Folks, just to go back here, this is iterations, one of the most foundational practices abused by the fixed mindset or utilized by the Agile mindset. This is iterations. These are both iterations.
The first one was the incremental and the second one was the iteration.
That's a technical discussion. At the end of the day, no, I'm serious. You could be right. I know that. I know that's the original slide. I know all that. However, I don't want to get philosophical on that. This, at the end of the day, is iterations. All right? It is a chunk of time at which you deliver something. Incremental or iterative or evolutionary. I mean, we can go into that discussion too. But the point of it, it was even called IID, incremental and iterative development. All right? Doesn't matter, big difference. The key here is the mindset. Here, it's not about learning and discovery. It's about finishing work. Here it is about learning and discovery. Agile organizations today have the Failure of the Year award. We joke about it, but no, it's the project that provided the maximum amount of learning for the organization. I value learning. Yes, sir.
Question.
Here or this one?
This one. So what you're suggesting basically implies that in the Agile environment, you would always, let me phrase it this simplistically just to get a point across, which is you always build a full product that's, let's say, ready to deploy based on whatever.
Yes.
Slice, so not full.
Slice of a product.
But it's a breadth first approach, meaning let's do
A little bit of everything.
a little bit of everything so that we have something.
Yes. A thin slice, yes.
Yeah.
Think of a cake.
Okay.
I'm not going to eat the
You're
frosting.
not slicing it this way. You're slicing it.
No, I am slicing this way.
You're slicing it this way.
Yeah. UI, architecture, hardware, whatever you want to go down. Here's a, I'm right.
In fact, that
It's end-to-end.
In fact, I think his picture would have been even better if he actually did it the way it's normally done, is layers. We start from the base, and then we go up, and it'd be stripes going up, because you're building up first. You got to get the architecture.
The foundation.
Foundation,
Yeah. So, anyway,
which is not the right slicing.
no. So, that's really the point I wanted to get across today. It's Agile is a mindset. Here's the definition. Now this is sort of the summarizing. Agile is a mindset. It's about welcoming change, failing early, build and feedback loops, continuous delivery. This is the thought process. This is the mindset for knowledge workers. It's defined by 4 values. all of these values, the manifesto, I hope you can look at it at a different light after this session. Individuals and interactions provide more learning and discovery than processes and tools. Working software provides more learning and discovery than comprehensive documentation. Collaborating with your customer provides more learning and discovery. Responding to change provides more learning and discovery. It is guided by 12 principles, how to learn and discover in the software space, not in any knowledge work. This manifesto was written for software. Doesn't mean you can't use it for knowledge work, but you need to adjust the values and principles. And it is manifested through an unlimited number of practices, unlimited being the key word. I hope that this group can understand the difference, because this part really irritates me. Scrum is not Agile, Agile is not Scrum.
Scrum is like an agile method.
Scrum is this. It's a bunch of practices bundled together. That's all it is. That's all it is. No, really. That's all it is. It's 3 artifacts, 3 ceremonies, and 3 roles. That's all it is, which is very limited in the Agile space. My friends and I are coaches at San Antonio, and we sat down and just started counting Agile practices. We stopped at 75. Scrum is 5. Extreme programming is 12. Our own homegrown methodology is like 16. There's nothing called all of Agile. That means you're going to take a road, you're going to go from here to San Jose and use all the roads in the middle. That's literally what it means.
I think I did coming up.
So I want to make sure this is understood as the boundary of Agile, the mindset, values, and principles. That's what the manifesto people wrote. And that's where it stops. The manifestation of Agile can be through anything. I highly advise organizations to look at the world of Agile in their transformations like this. There's a whole different topic on transformations. Maybe I'll get another time to come one day and talk about, but how to transform the mindset of an organization. Current processes have elements of agility. Do not throw them away. Some things work in your current process. That's how you've been developing software. Some things don't. Combine them. And this is my key slide, because 99% of organizations start by doing Agile, not being Agile.
Tell us the difference. Tell us the difference.
It's all about the tactical pieces. People are all about daily stand-ups, the doing, the rituals, the practices of it. The being is the mindset, is a different way of thinking, is internalizing the values, is changing our language. We're not. And by the way, we are human beings, not human doings. Right? This is a key point for us. This is the transformation. An Agile transformation is about transforming the attitudes and habits of people and the organization. It is no easy task.
I've long harbored the idea, the thought, that really Agile has been an outcrop, it's a revolution, if you will, of the workforce, the educated workforce, the thought worker saying, enough, we don't want to deal with
Yeah.
That was how it
this
started.
autocratic,
Yeah.
top-down.
Yeah.
And so they've sort of, I'm not going to say invented, but come up with this Agile concept,
Well,
which if it is successfully adapted, will truly transform the workplace.
so yes, and if we had more time, and I was just covering this in the training today, I have a slide to show the history, all right? And honestly, the history of what we're calling Agile today dates all the way back to John von Neumann, the guy that invented computers.
Sure.
So it really isn't new. It's common sense. It just hasn't been common.
I mean, Drucker was talking about things like this.
Yeah.
ages ago.
The point being, I don't believe Agile is new at all.
It's an evolution.
All right? I believe that it's always been there, that everyone in the thought leadership position in our industry, truly in the industry, has said this. What the Agile Manifesto, and I was fortunate enough to actually meet with all of them in their 10-year anniversary. What happened there was these are people that that have seen this evolution, and they came together and said, wait a minute, people are taking this in the wrong direction. Let's write a manifesto. All right, and it was sort of headed by Alistair Coburn and Uncle Bob to say, we need to write a manifesto to tell people what they're doing wrong. And so this is where the manifesto came from. And I said, guys, you're focusing too much on processes and tools and not on individuals and interactions. It wasn't just a revolt. It was sort of an awareness, sort of an encapsulation of 50, 60 years of experience. And so in my training, I actually present it as almost the last slide, not the first slide, because it really is the sum of the industry. And it's the beginning for a lot of us, but it was the summary for them.
I think we may be at a point where this is going to be more readily accepted and adapted, because I think what the experience has been, we go through management training and so on, but then we get into the workforce, and these older methodologies, top-down type of management is in place, and so we're forced to adapt to that.
Yeah.
And now I think
There's a shift. There's a shift. This is my bias. I will identify my bias. I'm one of the co-founders of the International Consortium for Agile. I believe in it 110%. The idea of it is focused on Agile, not on Scrum, not on extreme programming, not on any of these. All right? It is a certification, education roadmap for Agile. The way it's designed and developed is, you guys can't see it here, but this is the foundation. This is the fundamentals of Agile. All right? And it's all about the mindset, values, and principles. Okay? So what happened is we brought experts to define what this is. All right? So they actually wrote down, these are published on IC Agile's website. You can go and take a look at it. All right? A set of learning objectives. This is what people need to learn. And what IC Agile does, it's accredit courses against that. So educators, even people within companies, like companies that have their own courses, can accredit their internal courses with IC Agile and submit these courses and say, we cover these learning objectives. All right? Now, you probably can't see here, but IC Agile's vision is to provide learning objectives for enterprise agility. So it has tracks for enterprise Agile coaching, Agile value management and business analysis, project management, facilitation and coaching, software design and programming, testing, and executive leadership, which was the newest track because the idea was executives need to learn stuff to manage knowledge workers, to manage technology companies. So what do they need to learn? And they brought CEOs and CTOs and CIOs and brought them together and say, what do people need to learn? They brought enterprise coaches, they brought all these, and it's all discipline-based, not role-based, because the belief isn't generalizing specialists. The belief is that the modern-day project manager needs to have facilitation and coaching and project management and business analysis with different levels. The coach needs to have this and that. So it's not based on roles, it's based on disciplines. Does that make sense? So I highly advise you to learn more about IC Agile. They have 4 levels of certification, from the IC Agile Certified Professional, continuing education certifications along the way. And this is just by attending a class, the ICP. The CEC is validated by the instructor. The ICE, which is the IC Agile Certified Expert, actually goes through an interview process with IC Agile based on your portfolio and making sure that that learning has turned into competency. And then to make sure that the competency has turned into proficiency, that's the last, which is the Master Agilist. All right? And that's, again, way up here based on years of demonstrating that.
What is the difference between these certification and the other certification?
The PMI and the Scrum Alliance. The Scrum Alliance is all about Scrum, and it's about roles. So that's a big difference right there. The PMI ACP covers this, and that's it. But remember, the PMI ACP, to get it, you need 2,000 hours of experience. So I tell people, go get your ICP. If you want sort of a milestone when you finish those 2,000 hours, go take the ACP exam. I don't have a problem with that. The exam is actually much better than I thought it would be, because it's not like the PMP based on equations and numbers. It's actually situational. So we'll tell you stories, and you actually have to think. That's what I like people to think. I don't believe in exams. IC Agile does not believe in exams at all. It's all based on interactions. So interviews, mentoring programs, and all that kind of stuff. That's how you gain certifications here. All right? So, so that's the main difference in a nutshell, just because of time. And with IC Agile, you actually get a transcript. And this is really, for me, a key point that people can now track how much they know. Because some people know a little bit and think they know a lot. Right? So all the different tracks and learning objectives are shown here. And whatever you cover, you can see. Right? So now encouraging people to pursue that learning and discovery that we've all been talking about. Anyway, with that, I will conclude, because my wife is probably circling around the building at this point, and the kids are probably crying in the car. So thank you.